We picked out the roughest school, the roughest area, and we introduced our post free of charge just to try it. It's that time of the year again. The kids are back in school, and hey, things are hopping. You know, I'd like to take you back to school. Go over some points with you about the removable mullion. It's acquired over the years quite a bad reputation, and it's those points that cause that reputation that I'd like to bring out front for you. On a removable mullion, for that mullion to be able to come out of the hardware, they used brackets, wraparound, or plates, and they were bolted in with threaded fasteners, which were painted over and you couldn't get a screwdriver into them, or if they were close to the header, they were always cross-threaded. So people had a very rough time removing that mullion or reinstalling it because of the fasteners being so difficult. Another issue was the fact that you could walk up to a door on the outside, take the pull, and giving it a good pull, a lot of times the door would pop open. And the reason for that was the deflection in the mullion. And what was causing the deflection was the fact that the mullion had to have been made out of too light a gauge material, like 16 gauge. Each manufacturer had their own particular shape that they wanted to put on the market. They had T shapes, they had pear shapes, they had H shapes, so that you could slide the strikes up and down, or the strikes up and down the post to any height that you wanted. A good advantage until it was painted, and then you couldn't slide anything. But anyway, to form these, they had to use a light gauge steel. Being that they were rolled out of thinner gauge in a 7-foot or 8-foot length, they would flex enough that you could pop the door open. Another issue was the fact that the base plates were made of either cast or zinc or galvanized or aluminum, and each and every one of those corroded. Now, whether it would be from the salt or, as we found out later, from electrolysis. When they corroded, generally the lags that held them down to the concrete floor corroded too. So there was nothing left really to undo the lag to take it out of the floor, except you got a stub sticking out of the floor. So now how do you mount the new plate? You can't drill it. You can't do anything with it. So that was another big issue. I ran into these problems back in the 70s. So that makes it what? Oh, 50 years, 50 some odd years. Wow. Ouch. By the 80s, I was so frustrated because I tried to get a hold of the manufacturing people that made these mullions to make adjustments or correct problems that were happening in the field. Well, guess what? I didn't get an answer from anybody. They could care less. So here we're stuck in the field trying to correct problems that they could have corrected in the design stage in the beginning. So I decided to do something on my own. It took a lot of prototypes, but by 1998, we had our own patent, and we put our first mullions into the roughest areas of the nearest high school so we could monitor them. I remember the caretakers told us when we put them in, Vic, these mullions are not going to last here 2 hours. They're going to be gone. I said, well, let's try it and let's see. A week went by. Didn't hear anything. And then we started getting phone calls. To our surprise, they were ordering more mullions. They loved them so much. And I said, well, what happened? Aren't the kids stealing them? No, the kids aren't touching them. And we love them. They're so easy to work with. That school board actually put it in their specs that they were going to be using Post Latch mullions from there on in, and no substitutes. And they've been with us to today. They're still purchasing our mullions. They're still speccing our product. And we have other school boards and universities that are doing the same thing. My name is Vic, and I am founder and president of Post Latch Industries. What changed them over? Post Latch addressed every problem that was out there with the mullions. The first issue was the fastening of the mullion at the header, which sometimes took up to 2.5 hours. If you had to rethread something or find bolts, the poor caretaker, whoever, the maintenance guy, would end up playing with that thing for a couple of hours to get it reinstalled again. And then what started happening was caretakers that ran into problems started hiding them. When we tried to present our product to them, they would say, well, no, your product comes out too easy. The kids are going to steal them. We've already had Post stolen. Well, I asked them, well, show me where. They'd take me to the gym, and I said, where's the closest mechanical room? Well, they'd take me to the boiler room, mechanical room, and I'd look behind the door and I'd say, hey, is that your mullions? Oh, they weren't being stolen. They were being hidden because of the headaches that people were having with them. So anyway, getting back to what we did to solve the problem. We made our mullions remove in less than 2 seconds and reinstall in less than 2 seconds. Just like that. They've been out there for what, 22 years? Nobody's stealing them. The caretakers love them. The installers love them. And we don't need any tools to take them out. There are no visible fasteners. Our post, even though tripped, can never fall out. And it doesn't matter whether it's the thumb release or the keyed or the fire rated. So you have to actually lift it out off the seat and take it out. So it's actually the safest post out there. And that's how simple it is to lock it. The lockable, as you can see, the cylinder is on the side of the post. The mechanism is inside the post itself, and the mechanism is held by the nut that holds the cylinder. The post comes to you with the cylinder, everything assembled. So you don't have to do any drilling, cutting, or anything. The lockable system is in place for you. If you use your own keying system, and that cylinder is not the right cylinder for you, you simply lay the post on the side, unscrew the cylinder nut, put your own cylinder in, put the nut back on, and you're back in business. There are no other screws or bolts or fasteners for that mechanism. It has only one moving part, the sliding release plate. The locking mechanism is made of stainless, so it'll never rust. The fire rated has a plastic spacer, so that installers cannot make a mistake. A lot of times, the fire-rated hardware will come where there's nothing there, and the installer, not understanding what makes a fire-rated post, will cut the post right to the top of the header. What the fire rating is, the post has to be heavy enough gauge to stand up in a very strong fire, and it has to have room to expand. Now, that room for an 8-foot post is about 1.5 inches. That steel post will actually get 1.5 inches longer in a fire. And if we don't provide that space for it, in this case that's plastic so it'll melt, if we don't provide that space and that post is cut right to the header, it's got nowhere to expand, so it's going to buckle. When it buckles, it pops the strikes, the doors fly open, and you've got draft. So that's something that you don't want in a fire. You want those doors to stay locked and shut. We've used a spacer so that mistake cannot be made. The post is measured from the spacer down to the base plate. Our fire-rated mullion is fire-rated by Wernick Hershey. In all of our product, we provide a wire access, each and every one of them. The lockable, the thumb release, the fire-rated, they're all wire accessible. So you don't have to drill them. No sharp edges anywhere. Everything's powder coated. So that solved our problem. All of our hardware has the same footprint. And that footprint is the same as the 4954 Von Duprin. That one that has the bracket around it, that has the headaches. So just run out the 4 bolts, run ours in, using our bolts. If you put tech screws or other bolts that are higher, you're going to have a problem. Our post is a 2x3 1/8 wall box tubing, for the fire rated, and we use the same material throughout our product, regardless whether it's fire rated or not. For the base plates, working with DuPont, they suggested a material that would really stand up. We were quite impressed with how tough this stuff is. We did our own tests with sledgehammers and tried to break it, and they held up. If you have a situation where the base plate is rotted away and the lag bolts are rotted, then you've got stubs sticking up, and what do? We can't drill them out. You can't do anything with them. You simply grind them down flush with the floor. You sit this polymer plate down, center it over, and you run Tapcons in the four corners. Problem solved. Clean, totally water resistant, non-conductive, so electrolysis is stopped. They're very tough wearing. I believe we've addressed every problem. We don't have any visible fasteners anywhere. On the floor on the outside, on the header on the outside, everything is totally hidden. Nice and clean. As you can see, we provide a calibrated strip right there for the installer so that he can measure the length of his post from the hardware at the top to the base plate, find it on the calibrated strip, scribe around, cut it off, then pull it out completely out of the box and install it. So we're trying to work with the installers, we're trying to work with the end users and with the people that have to sell the product. Above all, if you have any comments, any questions, you can always talk to us anytime.